Hello everyone and welcome to Roja's Language YouTube channel. My name is Roya and you're watching our General English course Level A2. In this course, I teach the textbook American English File 1, 3rd edition. Please don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel now so that you'll get the future videos of this course and boost your language skills. Let's get started! So we start with the overview as we do in every lesson. We have Unit 4C with the title Blue Zones. In this unit, we have 5 sections. Section 1, Vocabulary, in which we will talk about months, adverbs of frequency, and also expressions of frequency. Section 2, Grammar, in which we will talk about the position of frequency adverbs and expressions and also do some practice to help you learn them very well. Then for section 3, we have pronunciation and we focus on the letter H and the sound it makes. In section 4, we have a reading and speaking. And also in section 5, we have a video listening about the island of Okinawa in Japan. Now let's start our lesson with a question. How can you live to be 100? By 100, I mean 100 years old. And that means how can you live so long? Pay attention to the pronoun you in this question. This you is not referring to you personally, but it is an impersonal you, and that means people in general. So when I ask, how can you live to be 100? I mean, how can everyone, all people, live to be 100 years old? Now, what do you think? You may have some ideas like exercise, because if you exercise more, then you will have a healthier body and that can make you live longer. Or maybe you can think of not smoking, don't smoke, because smoking can cause you to have a shorter life. What else do you think? Section 1, Vocabulary. Alright, let's start our lesson now by going to page 34 on the student book American English File 1. 4C, Blue Zones. In section 1, we have the vocabulary for months, adverbs, and expressions of frequency, in which we will learn about in a short time. But let's start with part A first. You need to listen to track 4.16 and complete the months in the phone calendar you see on the right side of this page. You need to listen to this, pause this video, listen, and then we will check the answers. As you see, the first 3 letters of each month are already written for you, so you just need to complete the rest of the letters. Let's check now. January, the first month, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. You can also listen to the audio file again and repeat the words. Try to repeat them exactly as you hear them, paying attention to the position of stress in each word. So as you see, we have stress on different syllables in each month. Sometimes we have stress on the first syllable, and sometimes we have stress on the second syllable. Now, in part B, we have a question. Which 5 are stressed on the second syllable. So can you circle the 5 months that have stress on the second syllable? The answer would be July. That's the first one. July. So the stress is on lie, which is the second syllable. The other one is September. September. Then we have October. October. You see, I push and stress, I put the pressure on the second syllable. Then we have November. November. And finally, December. December. I can also explain the other months. So for example, in January, we have the stress on the first syllable. In February, again, first syllable. In March, March could be the second, or because March only has one syllable, we cannot really say it has stress because March is only one syllable. April, so the stress is on the first syllable. May, June, May and June don't have any stress because they have only one syllable. And August, again, first syllable. All right, now you tell me, what's the month of your birthday? The month of my birthday is April. You can ask this question in another way. You can also say, when's your birthday? And then the answer would be, my birthday is in April. My birthday is in April. Or you can ask, when were you born? That may be a little more complicated because it has a passive structure, but again, it has the same meaning. When you say, when were you born, you refer to the birthday month of someone, or maybe the date if you know how to say it. So you can simply say, I was born in April, or my birthday is in April. Now time to go to page 157 to the vocabulary bank and look at part 2, expressions of frequency. In part A, from this section, complete the expressions. That's what you need to do. So we have a question, how often do you see your friends? And then we have 8 phrases that are not complete. So you have to complete the gaps to complete the expressions. The first one is already done for you. So we have every, and then in front of it, we have the days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So obviously that means every day. Every day. That's an expression of frequency when we want to answer the question that starts with how often. How often do you do something? So please complete the other phrases and then we will check them. Let's check them together now. Number 1, every day. Number 2, every week. Number 3, every month. Number 4, every year. Number 5, once a week, because it says only on Mondays, for example. Number 6, twice a week, on Mondays and Wednesdays. Number 7, 3 times a week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And number 8, 4 times a year, because this time we have months. For example, in January, April, July, and October. You can also listen to track 4.17, listen and repeat the expressions of frequency. But what is important here is that you need to know that you need to use them when you get a question that starts with how often. For example, how often do you meet your friends? How often do you go out for a coffee? How often do you go shopping, etc.? Once and twice are irregular forms. So for all other numbers like 3, 4, 5, etc., we use times. For example, 3 times a week, 4 times a year, 6 times a month, 10 times a day. Yeah, but once and twice, which are for 1 time and 2 times, we need to use these words specifically. So we say once a week, once a month, once a year, or twice a week, twice a month, twice a year. So on the same page, part 3, let's focus on adverbs of frequency. What do the highlighted words mean? Match sentences 1 to 6 to A to F. So here we have the adverbs of frequency that you can also use to answer a question that starts with how often. But this time these words are adverbs. So we have always, often, usually, sometimes, hardly ever, and never. Now by matching these sentences to A to F, we can understand their meanings. Please try to do this in 1 minute and then we will check the answers. So let's look at the answers now. Number 1, I always get up at 7 during the week. You should match this with B, which is also already done for you. I start work at 8 every day. So you can compare always and every day here. Number 2, I often go to the movies after work. And you need to match it with A, which means about 7 or 8 times a month. So that means a lot. Number 3, I usually finish work at 6 o'clock. You should match it with C. But on Fridays, we stop at 3 o'clock. So usually means normally, most of the time. Number 4, I sometimes meet a friend for lunch. You should match it with F, about once or twice a month. Number 5, I hardly ever go to the theater. You should match it with E, which means only once or twice a year. So that means rarely. And number 6, I never have coffee. I don't like it. And yeah, you match it with D. So that means 0 actually. So again, to get better at pronunciation, you can listen to track 4.19 and repeat the highlighted adverbs of frequency. But let's focus on a box here about the word normally, which is the same as usually. So you can use them interchangeably. I normally get up early means I usually get up early. Section 2, Grammar. Back to page 34, Section 2, Grammar, Position of Frequency Adverbs and Expressions. So here we have a text that we need to read. But first let's look at a photo and the girl in the photo. How old do you think the girl is? 13, 16, 18? Something between these ages, right? So, teenagers. She's a teenager, and teenagers are young people between the ages of 13 and 19. This text here is about teenagers in the US. And you can also see the title, Teenagers in trouble. But before we start reading, let's look at some words that could be useful for you when you read the text. Knowing the meanings could be useful. So we have screen, which is a noun, and it means the flat, square part of a television or computer where you see pictures or words. So a laptop, a television, or your smartphone have a screen. And sugary is an adjective, and it means containing a lot of sugar. So sugary snacks are snacks that have a lot of sugar inside them, which are normally not really healthy. Now let's get to know two phrases, or better say, two adjectives that are very important in this lesson. Unhealthy lifestyle versus healthy lifestyle. So which one do you have? An unhealthy lifestyle is a way of living that is not healthy for your body or maybe your soul. So if you eat a lot of sugary snacks or generally eat a lot or don't get enough exercise or look at your smartphone or laptop or different screens a lot, you may have an unhealthy lifestyle. On the other hand, we have a healthy lifestyle. A healthy lifestyle is exactly the opposite. So that means you try to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, healthy food, you exercise regularly, and you try to manage the time you look at your cell phone or screen or whatever. Now, please read the text on page 34 in 2 minutes. When you're done, please continue listening to me as I'm also going to read it for you. Teenagers in trouble. American teenagers may, for the first time in the nation's history, live shorter lives than their parents because of their unhealthy lifestyles. According to recent research, 96% spend more than 5 hours looking at a screen every day. 86% hardly ever eat fruit or green vegetables. 75% don't usually sleep for 8 hours a day. The average is 7 hours. 34% eat fast food at least once a day. 33% drink more than 4 sugary drinks every day. 31% are often very stressed. 25% never play sports or exercise. Now, you tell me, which situations do you think are probably similar in your country? Are teenagers in your country similar? Now let's look at a first grammar rule for frequency adverbs and expressions in this grammar section. Please look at part B, look at a position of the highlighted words in the text and expressions. Circle the correct rule. For number 1, adverbs of frequency, for example, usually, go before or after a main verb, before or after the verb be. Which one is correct? Yes, they go before the main verb and after the verb be. Number 2, expressions of frequency, for example, every week, go at the beginning or at the end of a phrase or sentence. Which one? Yes, They go at the end of a phrase or sentence. Now please go to page 130 to the grammar bank 4C, position of adverbs and expressions of frequency. We want to learn more about them. But before we get to their position, let's see how they are used and why they are used. We use adverbs and expressions of frequency to say how often you do something. For example, how often do you cook? I cook every evening. Every evening is an expression of frequency, and I use it to say how often I cook. We also have a white box on the left side of this page, which has some examples. Number 1, I always watch TV in the evening. Do you usually sleep 8 hours a day? She sometimes plays sports. She doesn't often go to bed late. So we have always, usually, sometimes, and often as adverbs of frequency. Pay attention to their position. The position for adverbs of frequency are before the main verb. But in negative sentences, like the last sentence that I read, she doesn't often go to bed late, the adverb of frequency goes between don't or doesn't and the verb. So first we have doesn't, then we have often, then we have go. Often goes between the two parts of the verb. And adverbs of frequency go after the verb be in positive and negative sentences. So it doesn't make a difference. You can say she is always late or she is not always late. In questions with the verb be, the adverb of frequency goes after the subject. So let's look at example 2 here. They're hardly ever late. That's a positive answer, a positive sentence. We have are and then we have hardly ever. He isn't often stressed. We have isn't, negative verb, and then often. And for the question, are you usually in this classroom? So we have are you. First we have the verb, then we have the subject, and then we have usually, the adverb of frequency. Now, there is another point here. Sometimes and usually can be used at the beginning of a sentence or clause for emphasis. So normally we put them before main verb and after the verb be, but only for these two words, sometimes and usually. We can sometimes put them at the beginning to emphasize what we want to say. For example, sometimes I wake up really early, because we want to emphasize that this happens only sometimes, not more. So the last example, number 3 in the white box, is about expressions of frequency. I have English classes twice a week. She doesn't work every day. So you see the usual position for expressions of frequency is at the end of a sentence or at the end of a verb phrase. They are sometimes placed at the beginning, but again for emphasis. For example, you can also say, every day I check my emails first thing in the morning, because you want to emphasize that you do this every day. Time for you to practice. So go to page 131 for C and start with part A. Put the adverb of frequency in the correct place in the sentence. There is an example already done for you. They drive they don't have a car, and you need to put never in this sentence. So you should write, they never drive, they don't have a car. Remember that with the two adverbs never and hardly ever, we use a positive verb. So you say they never drive. You don't say they never don't drive. Because never has a negative meaning. So we have a positive verb, but the sentence in general has a negative meaning. Please do it for the rest of the sentences and then we will check. Let's check now. I always walk to work. Do you usually wear glasses? Number 3, I'm hardly ever bored. So hardly ever is the same as never, as I told you. We put a positive verb, but the sentence in general has a negative meaning. She sometimes does housework. We hardly ever go to the movies. Why are you always late? My girlfriend is never stressed. Does it often rain in December? Nice. So please do part B now. Order the words to make sentences. Let's check. I am never late for class. Number 2, we hardly ever eat fast food. Number 3, what time do you usually finish work? Number 4, my parents don't often go out at night. Number 5, my brother is always hungry at lunchtime. Number 6, we don't always do our homework. 7, do you usually drive to work? And 8, our teacher is hardly ever angry. All right, now to wrap up our grammar section, we go to page 104, communication. 4C, short life, long life. Now, we have a questionnaire here, and we're going to find out if you're going to live a short or long life by answering this questionnaire. So as you see, we have the questions, 10 questions. The first 7 questions should start with how often do you? For example, how often do you have breakfast? Or how often do you eat fresh fruit and vegetables? And the last 3 questions, 8, 9, and 10, start with how many. For example, how many hours do you usually sleep a day? So now I will give you some time, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes, to look at the questions and choose your answers between A, B, and C, and then we will start to have a conversation. Nice. So after answering all of them, we will try to have a conversation. So as I told you, I'm going to ask the questions first, like how often do you have breakfast? And remember, when you want to answer, you need to make a sentence. For example, I usually have breakfast. Or you can use any other adverb of frequency that suits you. Okay, let's go for question 1. How often do you have breakfast? How often do you eat fresh fruit and vegetables? How often do you eat fast food? How often do you exercise? How often do you feel tired or stressed? How often do you drink soda? How often do you see your friends? How many hours do you usually sleep a day? How many cups of coffee do you drink a day? Which of these is true for you? Now let's change roles. This time you're gonna ask me the questions. I'm gonna wait for you and then give you an answer for each question. So please start and ask question 1. I always have breakfast. I eat fresh fruit and vegetables once a day. I hardly ever eat fast food. I exercise 3 or 4 times a week. I sometimes feel tired or stressed. I never drink soda. I sometimes see my friends. I sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. I usually drink only 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day. I'm usually positive about life. Now you can calculate your score. For each A score for each A answer, you give yourself 5 points. For each B answer, you give yourself 7 points. And for each C answer, you give yourself 10 points. And then finally, you'll get a total score, which is equal to the number of years you live. Section 3, Pronunciation. Let's focus on the letter H. The letter H is in many languages silent at the beginning of a word, but in English, it is almost always pronounced, like the H in hotel or the H in how. As you see, we pronounce it completely. There are a few exceptions though, but there are not so many. So, now please look at your book, Pronunciation, Section 3 on page 34, Part A. You can listen to track 4.21 to the words and sound and repeat, or you can just listen to me and repeat as I pronounce the words. So let's start. House. H. How. Hardly. Happy. Healthy. High. Have. Hungry. As you see, the letter H is pronounced in all of these words. Now please look at part B. This time I will give you some time to listen to track 4.22 and circle one word where H is not pronounced. Okay, now let's look at the sentences together. Harry is a hairstylist. He hardly ever has breakfast. He's often in a hurry. He usually has half an hour for lunch. He often has a hamburger for dinner. Harry isn't very healthy. So in which word is H not pronounced? Exactly, the word hour, H-O-U-R. That's an exception. Now, go for part C. We have a list of verb phrases here. Please make true sentences about you with the verb phrases and also add an adverb or expression of frequency. I will put the adverbs of frequency here on the left side of this slide. You can use them, or you can use expressions of frequency to make true sentences about yourself. Please do this in 4 to 5 minutes. Write the sentences. Section 4, Reading and Speaking. On page 35, we have a text. What are their secrets? But before we start the text, please look at this word that I want to clarify for you. Secret. What is a secret? It is a noun, and it means something you do not or must not tell other people. You have to keep it to yourself. Now, please look at the photos on the right side of page 35 and read the text. After you're done, we're going to answer a few questions. So please read the text in 2 minutes. So, after you're done reading, let's look at the questions. What do you think the places might have in common? What are the blue zones? And how old do you think Alexis and Maria are? Please think about the answers a little. What are the blue zones? Well, the blue zones are 5 places where many people live for a long time. And how old are Alexis and Maria? Alexis is 102 and Maria is 97. But what about their secrets? What are their secrets? On page 35, part B of the 4th section, we are referred to the communication section on pages 104 and 110. So let's start with page 104. Please go to that page and find 4C, Ikaria. We're going to read an article here about Ikaria in Greece. But first, let's start by looking at the glossary. We have some words to define. We have beans, which is a type of food that we usually use in stews or as a side dish. Herbal tea, you can also see the picture of that. We have different types of herbal tea with different plants, like mint tea, one of the most popular ones, that help us relax or feel better. And siesta is a rest or sleep taken in the early afternoon, especially in hot countries. So it's pretty much like a nap. So you take a nap. All right, so now please start reading the article about Ikaria. Do this in 3 to 4 minutes, and then try to answer the questions 1 to 7 in part A. Great, so now I'm going to read the text for you. Ikaria is a small green island near the coast of Turkey. Coast here means near the sea, the land near the sea. And Turkey is a country. How do the people there live? They eat a lot of beans, potatoes, and green vegetables, and they sometimes eat fish. But they hardly ever eat red meat or sugar. So what is red meat? The meat of lamb, cow, and so on. They drink a lot of herbal tea. They do a lot of exercise, but they never go to a gym. They work in their gardens and they walk everywhere. Not many people in Korea have a car. They also take a siesta every afternoon. So you see, you can use siesta in a sentence just like the word nap. You take a nap or take a siesta. Ikaria is a very safe place. In the village of Rachis, the police station is closed. The people say they don't need police. People also have a very good social life. The island is famous for its tradition of Panagiria, or festivals between May and October. The island has between 2 and 4 festivals every week where people eat, drink, and dance all night. They call Ikaria the island where people forget to die. Okay, so now a good practice here would be that you try to tell a summary of this article. You can maybe highlight or underline a few words or phrases that you can use as keywords and then look at them once in a while, but try to retell the story or the information in your own words. So now let's go to page 110 and read about the other place. So on page 110, please do the same. Read the text about Nicoya in Costa Rica in 3 to 4 minutes and try to answer the 7 questions in part A. I'm going to read the text for you now. Nicoya is in northwest Costa Rica near the border with Nicaragua. Border here refers to a line between two countries or two areas that separates them. Most of the people who live there are farmers. In Nicoya, people eat small meals. They usually have beans, rice, sweet potatoes, and sometimes a little meat, an egg, or some cheese. They also have some unusual fruits, for example, the marronin, a fruit similar to an orange with a lot of vitamin C. They drink a lot of water. The local water is unusually rich in calcium and magnesium. They are very active during the day. They work outside, they walk everywhere, or ride horses. They don't watch television and they don't use the internet. So they go to bed when it's dark and get up when it's light. They sleep well, usually 8 hours a night. All people in Nicoya have something called a plan de vida. It means a reason to get up every morning. This may be work or family, and it's what makes even people who are over 100 still feel necessary. Now, if you'd like, you can also tell a summary of this text, this article, because it can help you with your speaking skill. Now, what do the two places, Ikuria and Nicoya, have in common? I'm sure you got the right answer. People in both places spend a lot of time outside. They are very active. They walk everywhere. They eat beans, and they don't eat much meat. Back to page 35, section 4, part C, the final part. What words and phrases can you remember from the articles? So we have 2 categories here, food and drink category and physical exercise category. And you need to write the words and phrases you remember from the texts next to these categories. For example, in food and drink category, we have beans, and in physical exercise category, we have work outside. So please spend a few minutes to do this. Let's check for food and drink. So you could have written potatoes, green vegetables, fish, sugar, herbal tea, rice, sweet potatoes, egg, cheese, meat, fruit, and water. And for physical exercise, you can write exercise, work in the gardens, go to a gym, walk everywhere, and ride horses. Section 5, video listening. Welcome to the last section of today's lesson, section 5. You're gonna watch a documentary about a third blue zone, the island of Okinawa in Japan. So before we start watching, I would like to teach you a few new words that will help you understand the documentary better. So, centenarian, centenarian. It would be nice if you repeated the words a few times so that you can learn the pronunciation. Centenarian. It's somebody who is 100 years old or more. Seaweed. Seaweed. It's a green, brown, or dark red plant that grows in or near the sea. Martial arts. Martial arts. It's a traditional Japanese, Chinese, or Korean form of fighting. For example, judo, karate, etc. Community. Community. The people living in an area who are considered as a unit because of nationality, social group, etc. Okay, now please watch the documentary. You can use your CD or you can find the link in the caption of this video. Please watch it and mark the sentences in part A on your book, true or false. A good way to do this is to read the sentences before you watch and try to underline the keywords or the important phrases so that when you watch the video, you can remember what information you need to mark the sentences correctly. Let's quickly check the answers now. 1, false. 2, true. 3, true. 4, false. 5, true. 6, false. 7, false. 8, false. Great, so now let's look at a transcript of this documentary. The island of Okinawa. Okinawa is an island about 400 miles south of Japan. It is a beautiful island with wonderful beaches and clear blue water. It also has more centenarians, people who are 100 years old or more, than anywhere else in the world. What's more, they seem to age more slowly than other people. What's more here means in addition, also. They seem to age. Age means grow old. According to scientists, people there who are actually 70 often have the bodies of 50-year-olds. Many of them are very healthy all through their lives. What's their secret? Most people think it's because of their healthy lifestyle. They don't have big meals. They have a cultural habit called harahachi, which means they always stop eating before they're full. So if you're full, it means you cannot eat anymore. Your stomach is full. They usually just have fish and vegetables, especially sweet potatoes. And they eat a lot of seaweed, which is one of the healthiest foods that there is. But diet isn't the only reason why they lived so long. The Okinawans are very active. Okinawans means people from Okinawa. And they often work in their gardens until they're 80 or more. Many of them also do Tai Chi or martial arts every day. They have a good social life. They visit friends or family, and a lot of them belong to community centers. Some play the traditional Okinawan guitar, an instrument similar to a banjo. The old people of Okinawa are very positive and happy with their lives. They aren't stressed because they're never in a hurry. Their spiritual lives are important to them, especially the women, and many of them meditate every day. Meditate is the verb for meditation. In Okinawa, people say you're a child until you're 55. And when you reach 97, your local town holds a special ceremony called Kajimaya to celebrate the fact that now it's time to be young again, to be free of all responsibilities and to simply enjoy life. All right, now let's check why the false sentences are false. Number 1. The book says the island of Okinawa is north of Japan, but it is actually south of Japan. That's why it's false. Number 4, the book says the Okinawans don't eat meat or fish, but the right answer is they eat fish. Number 6, the book says they do yoga every day, but the right answer is they do Tai Chi or martial arts every day. Number 7, the book says the Okinawans are often in a hurry, but they are never in a hurry. And number 8, the book says when Okinawans reach 100, they have a ceremony called Kajimaya, but actually when they reach 97, they have a ceremony called Kajimaya. Now, what does Okinawa have in common with Ikuria and Nicoya? Exactly. A healthy diet, a lot of exercise, and a good social life. Now, are there people in your country who live like this? In what ways is your lifestyle similar to or different from the life in the blue zones? And finally, would you like to live in one of the blue zones? Please spend some time, think about these questions, and prepare your answers. Thank you so much for learning with me today. If the video was useful for you, give it a thumbs up. And please join us on Instagram, TikTok, and Telegram, where you can get more points and exercises related to the course. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.